the very beginning, Liu Nian suffers betrayal. The woman he cherished, saving every penny to make her happy, is now downstairs in the arms of another man. Not only does she praise his skills as being far better than her boyfriend's, but when she notices Liu Nian watching, she deliberately puts on an expression of pure ecstasy just to humiliate him further. At that moment, Liu Nian's phone rings. It's news that his father is critically ill. With no choice, he leaves the unfaithful couple behind and rushes to the hospital. There, Liu Nian learns the shocking truth. His father collapsed while endlessly grinding in an online game. Even the doctors are helpless. Determined to uncover the cause, Liu Nian decides to log into the game himself. The moment he puts on his VR headset, he is transported into a hyper-realistic virtual world called Glory Conquest. At first, things go smoothly. Beginner rewards help him level up quickly, and he even finds a rare cultivation item. But soon, trouble arrives. The very same couple appears inside the game, leading a group of intruders to attack him. With his strength still too weak, he cannot even withstand a casual strike from his ex-girlfriend. Eventually, under the man's blade, Liu Nian is killed and left to die in the wilderness. Yet, when he opens his eyes again, he realizes something extraordinary. Staring at his reflection, Liu Nian discovers that he has actually crossed into the game, reborn not as a player, but as an NPC, the Cursed King, Emperor Xing. Although trapped within the Huangling tomb, he now possesses a second life. To test whether this world is truly real, he gives an intimate command to Lady Yu, and the overwhelming sensation confirms his suspicion. It is no illusion. Soon, Su Daji, impressed by the king's vigor, suggests that her sisters join in as well, celebrating his rebirth in the form of a ritual bath. Despite centuries of waiting in the tomb, Su Daji's beauty remains undiminished. As she disrobes, Liu Nian can no longer contain himself. Inside the sacred pool, he makes another discovery. The legendary 9 pools of flesh actually exist. Not only do they relieve exhaustion, but they also accelerate cultivation. Without hesitation, he immerses himself, and a fierce night of passion and power begins. The entire Huangling tomb echoes with voices until finally, the system chimes. Congratulations, host. You have unlocked the hidden class, Human Emperor. You have obtained the secret cultivation methods, 9 pools of flesh, and the Iron Embrace. As Liu Nian dresses, Lady Yu brings dire news. Lord Shen Gongbao has arrived at the tomb, demanding that Su Daji come forth immediately to discuss matters. Recognizing the danger, Su Daji hides Liu Nian within the pendant, resting against her chest, taking him with her to the Xuande Hall for the confrontation. Soon, the scene shifts to the Great Hall, where Shen Gongbao, without hesitation, dares to sit upon the royal throne. Seeing Shen Gongbao boldly sit upon the royal throne, Su Daji wasted no time. She raised her palm, ready to unleash her power and engage in battle. But just then, a guard stepped forward to block her. With nothing more than a glance from Su Daji, her aura exploded, sending him flying across the hall. Alarmed, the guard quickly shouted for her to stop, explaining that Shen Gongbao had already taken control of the game's operations. He urged her to calm down and listen before taking action. After hearing Shen Gongbao's explanation, Liu Nian finally understood the truth. The game Glory Conquest had originally been developed by Yuanxi Tianzun and Jiang Xia to select talented individuals from the real world who could ascend to the immortal realm. The original system was designed so that even if a player died inside the game, as long as their spiritual essence remained intact, they could revive at a resurrection point without suffering any harm in reality. But everything changed after Shen Gongbao, Huo Long, and the Tongtian sect leader sealed away Jiang Xia. They secretly allowed demons from the underworld to infiltrate the game, disguised as NPCs, draining human spiritual essence bit by bit. This was why players like Liu Nian's father had fallen into comas in the real world, and with Yuanxi Tianzun in deep seclusion for at least 1,000 years, unable to intervene, the villains had time to absorb enough essence to break through into ancient realms of power. This time, Shen Gongbao had come to the Huangling tomb to confirm whether the cursed king had truly been reborn. For if the human emperor's essence was obtained, the Tongtian sect leader could instantly leap 2 cultivation levels. When Su Daji declared that the cursed king had not resurrected, Shen Gongbao refrained from further conflict. Instead, he offered a promise. If they could help him locate Emperor Xing's reincarnation, the Tongtian sect leader would ensure that Daji and her 2 sisters were freed from the tomb. With that, he turned and departed the Xuande Hall. Hearing all this, Liu Nian realized the stakes. If he failed to stop Shen Gongbao's scheme, not only would his father remain in peril, but the entire real world could face destruction. Impressed by his determination, Su Daji quickly presented a jade seal, explaining it had been left behind in the forest by the cursed king. Only someone of the human emperor's bloodline could unlock its power. With a single thought, Liu Nian summoned a brilliant treasure. A sword appeared before him. According to Husume, it was the Dragon Phoenix sword, a weapon that, once fully awakened, could cut down 10,000 armies with a single strike. However, it required many rare materials to activate. Recognizing his current weakness weakness as a beginner, Liu Nian chose not to rush. For now, diligent cultivation and leveling up were most important. When he announced his departure, Su Daji clung to him with deep reluctance, vowing that she would continue training tirelessly until she broke through her realm and could serve him once again. Then, as Liu Nian activated the Jade Seal, a flash of light engulfed him. With his beloved concubines bidding farewell, he was instantly transported back into the novice village. Just after Liu Nian returned from the Cursed King's tomb, he stumbled upon a dungeon raid, where players swarmed to snatch the newly refreshed loot. Leading the charge was none other than Fang Qie, whose speed and equipment revealed her as a pay-to-win player from a powerful family. When a monster with parameters above a 107 entangled the crowd in thick vines, even seasoned players struggled. But with one powerful slash of her sword, Fang Qie cut through the trap, only to miss a hidden vine underground. It burst forth and instantly wrapped around both her and Liu Nian, suspending them in the air. The monster lowered glowing fruits before them, which exploded with corrosive liquid, burning away Liu Nian's upper garments. Panicked, Fang Qie declared that her necklace was actually a divine treasure, the Phoenix Spirit, but at that moment, she couldn't activate it. Before she could finish speaking, Liu Nian bit down on the necklace. To her shock, the artifact, which normally took long rituals to trigger, activated instantly in his mouth, obliterating the monster on the spot. Not only did Liu Nian gain rare materials from the kill, but he also leveled up 3 times in succession. While Fang Qie was stunned, hidden in the shadows were Liu Nian's ex-girlfriend and her new lover, sneering in disbelief at his sudden rise in power. But Fang Qie alone noticed the secret, that he had used his mouth to channel the artifact. Testing her theory, she moved close and kissed him, trying to sense its presence. Finding nothing, she quickly stood up and said with a sly smile that her kiss wouldn't be without repayment. She proposed they visit Baohua Tower, the auction house nearby. First, she insisted they stop at her home to change clothes. She promised to buy him treasures, as thanks for saving her, but in truth, she harbored ulterior motives. She intended to uncover the mystery behind his instant spell casting. On the way, she secretly purchased a vial of potion. By the time they reached her grand family villa, night had fallen. For Liu Nian, stepping into the luxurious mansion felt like tasting the life of a tycoon. Fang Qie, meanwhile, excused herself to bathe. In the bathroom, she coated her legs with the violet potion, then emerged wearing only a bathrobe, her body releasing a seductive fragrance. As she lifted her leg toward him, the drug's effect spread, but instead of collapsing, Liu Nian surged with burning desire and lunged forward. At that moment, Fang Qie realized something was wrong. The strange sensations running through her body confirmed it. The potion seller had mixed up the bottles. She hadn't used a knockout drug at all, but an aphrodisiac. With both of them under its influence, resistance was impossible. What followed was a fierce and unrestrained night that lasted for hours. When it finally ended, Fang Qie, angry and humiliated at losing her virginity, demanded that Liu Nian marry into her family. She even tossed him a bank card, telling him to buy whatever he needed for cultivation. Yet, as she listened to the sound of him dressing and preparing to leave, a pang of reluctance struck her heart. Remembering his unmatched vigor, she resolved to accept him as her husband and train him to become a useful ally for the Fang family. Not long after, the scene shifted to the entrance of Baohua Tao, where the grand auction was to be held. Just as Liu Nian was about to step inside, his path was blocked by the very ex-girlfriend and her new lover who had betrayed him before. Boyfriend sneered at Liu Nian, mocking his shabby appearance, while the ex-girlfriend ridiculed his poverty. But within moments, Liu Nian gave them a lesson they would never forget. Entry to the auction itself required a minimum net worth of 10 million. Upon hearing this, the ex-girlfriend laughed uncontrollably, boasting that if Liu Nian could show that much money, she would eat incense. The very next second, her smile froze. Liu Nian calmly pulled out a supreme black card, a card with a minimum usage limit of 1 billion. Disbelieving, she quickly summoned security to verify its authenticity. To her shock, the card turned out to be real. Liu Nian was escorted through the VIP channel, while the ex-girlfriend and her companion had no choice but to wait in the long queue with their ordinary gold cards. Inside the auction hall, Liu Nian was seated in the front row. Enraged, the blonde boyfriend clenched his teeth and swore he would humiliate him later. As Madame Baohua, the host, announced the start of the auction, the first item, a jade ice casket with healing powers, was revealed. Bidding began at 100,000 and quickly shot up to 1.7 million. When the blonde boyfriend called out 2 million, the room fell silent until Liu Nian broke it with a sharp 4 million. The hall erupted, but the blonde boyfriend smirked, convinced the black card must have been stolen, and that Liu Nian would soon be exposed. Curiously, Liu Nian refrained from bidding on the next items, seemingly confirming the man's suspicion. But when the final treasure was unveiled, a legendary azure dragon armor, wearable by both warriors and mages, the hall exploded with excitement. The blonde instantly offered 5 million. Without hesitation, Liu Nian raised it to 10 million, stunning the entire crowd. Madame Baohua's eyes sparkled with delight. She quietly vowed to befriend this mysterious powerhouse. The ex-girlfriend had the same thought, though for very different reasons. Later, after Liu Nian had changed into the armor backstage, his ex appeared, attempting to lure him back with flirtation. To her shock, she received nothing but a stinging slap. Madame Baohua entered, amused by the commotion. With a smile, she teased, "Surrounded by admirers, aren't you, Mr. Liu? Tell me, do you have time for a private lesson tonight?" The ex tried to retort, but Baohua silenced her with a swift kick out of the room. Moments later, the blonde returned with police officers, demanding Liu Nian's black card be examined. Yet again, the attempt failed, leaving him humiliated. Furious, he prepared to lash out. But before Liu Nian could even test his new armor, Baohua effortlessly struck the man aside with a single fan strike. Defeated, he fled the hall in disgrace, vowing revenge. Now alone with Liu Nian, Madame Baohua grew bolder. She invited him directly to her chamber. When he tried to refuse, citing his marriage, she pulled him close, whispering, "What's the matter? Do you find me too old? Believe me, darling, my skills are far beyond those wooden girls." With that, she kissed him passionately. Since this episode's visuals are quite explosive, some parts of the story may need you to imagine them yourself. Last time, Madame Qingqiuya wanted to carefully probe the secrets hidden behind Liu Nian's words, but instead of answers, she caught a faintly familiar scent. Pretending to offer him comfort and relieve his fatigue, she subtly tested her suspicion, and, as expected, her guess was correct. The lesson she offered soon became too intense, and Liu Nian, overwhelmed, could only cry out in surrender. Still, he couldn't help but praise her teaching. Right after, Qingqiuya handed him a phone, saying it carried her personal contact details. If he ever needed help, he could reach her anytime. Surprised, Liu Nian realized that even in this game world, people used mobile phones. The confusion on his face made her laugh uncontrollably. In a moment of passion, Qingqiuya threw herself into his arms, ready to start another lesson. But suddenly, a burst of light separated them. She quickly recognized the protective treasure around Liu Nian. It was none other than the Imperial Jade Seal. This confirmed her suspicion. Liu Nian was the reincarnation of the cursed king, Dixon. Without hesitation, she took out a storage ring and pressed it into his hand, warning him, "Such a priceless artifact will attract danger if not hidden safely. With me not always by your side, brother-in-law, you must be careful out there." The word brother-in-law left Liu Nian completely puzzled. Only then did she explain. Her elder sister was none other than the nine-tailed fox, Su Da. Realizing Qingqiuya was family, Liu Nian lowered his guard and asked if she could use her auction house connections to help locate his missing father and brother. Just as he was preparing to leave, a man called Xiao Baji appeared at the door. The moment he saw Qingqiuya, he dropped to his knees and confessed his love. She looked at him in utter disgust, spitting directly into his mouth. Yet instead of anger, Xiao Baji savored it, remarking, "It's a little salty, a little fishy. Are you having heat problems lately?" Liu Nian, watching, knew better. That wasn't from heat. Those were the traces of her children. He stepped out of the room, but before he could get far, Xiao Baji hurried after him, calling his name. Alarmed, Liu Nian froze, wondering, did this man already know her secret? Liu Nian was stopped by little Baji, who looked aggressive at first. Liu Nian thought a fight was coming, but to his surprise, the boy broke into tears. Falling to his knees, Baji begged to become Liu Nian's disciple, asking him to teach the secret of winning the heart of Qingqiuya. At first, Liu Nian had no interest in accepting him, but when he heard that Baji was from the powerful Tiangang Chamber of Commerce, an idea sparked in his mind. Calmly, he reminded Baji that discipleship usually required a proper gift. In the blink of an eye, a whole chest of magical treasures appeared before him. Baji had clearly brought out everything he could, desperate to prove his sincerity and persuade Liu Nian to reveal the secrets of love. Amused, Liu Nian pulled out a book titled The 48 Arts of the Fox Spirit. Baji had never seen such a rare manual, unaware that it was nothing more than notes secretly compiled from Liu Nian's playful lessons with Da Ji. Later, eager to level up quickly, Liu Nian entered the Spirit Tree Forest, armed with potions and fire talismans provided by Baji. With a single strike, he wiped out the entire wolf demon pack, gaining massive experience and soaring straight to level 20. But when he went to the job transfer hall to officially advance his class as a warrior, the system rejected him. Even when he tried other professions, the outcome was the same: failure. After some thought, Liu Nian realized the problem likely lay in his bloodline as the cursed king. Determined, he summoned the Imperial Seal. In an instant, his consciousness transported him back to the royal tomb. The moment he regained the appearance of the cursed king, Da Ji could no longer contain herself and threw herself into his arms. From her words, Liu Nian finally understood. He couldn't change professions because of his unique royal bloodline. Fortunately, Daji had already prepared a mystical treasure for him, the 7-orifice exquisite heart. If he consumed it for 3 days, it would greatly enhance his ability to learn new skills. At that moment, his other 2 consorts appeared and joined him, revealing their own gift. To help him prepare for the looming battle, they had crafted a magical bed using pure spiritual power. Following their lead, Liu Nian opened a chamber door to see a pink bed glowing with energy. This bed, they explained, would not only double the efficiency of cultivation, but also ensure his strength remained unmatched for generations. The 3 women lay gracefully upon it, their eyes fixed on him. "My king," they whispered, "what are you waiting for? Come, let's begin the cultivation." The ultimate visual challenge begins here. Once again, it must be stated, parts of this episode involve unique phenomena tied to special constitution. Seeing his 3 beloved consorts gathered together on the same bed, he couldn't help but exclaim, "Others need buffs to grow stronger. But when it's my turn, cultivation itself becomes the buff. This is truly exhilarating." According to Daji, this method of cultivation was personally designed for the cursed king by the 3 sisters. It would allow Liu Nian to refine the 9 vital apertures of the body, making it easier to absorb the essence of heaven and earth. With this, his training speed could double, and even the path to immortality was within sight. No sooner had she finished speaking than Hu Sime moved first, beginning the refinement. On the bed, Daji and Lady Yu started complaining at being left behind. Seeing this, Hu Sime suggested, "Since my sisters can't wait, why not refine 3 apertures at the same time?" With that, she pushed Liu Nian onto the bed. Immediately, a surge of pure masculine energy flowed into him. Daji explained that the bed itself was no ordinary artifact. Known as the Phoenix Spring Bed, it was forged from the refined essence of 999 male spirit beasts. Any man lying on it could train continuously for 24 hours without feeling fatigue. With that, Daji and Lady Yu began assisting in refining 2 of the apertures, while Hu Sime focused on accelerating the refinement of another. In an instant, radiant sound waves filled the entire chamber. After 5 hours, a brilliant glow appeared, and the system's voice resounded. "Today's refinement is temporarily complete. Congratulations, your secret technique, 9 pools of flesh and spirit, has advanced to its ultimate stage. For the next 72 hours, cultivation speed is increased from double to quadruple. Congratulations, my king. 3 apertures successfully refined." Hearing the cheers of his consorts, Liu Nian felt his entire body overflowing with power. But Daji had even more prepared for him. She announced a special gift. Others would now assist Liu Nian in refining the remaining 6 apertures. At her call, a girl named Niu Tiantian entered the chamber. She was the younger sister of the Bull Demon King, but also Daji's trusted friend, so she could be relied upon. To avoid embarrassment, Daji reminded her gently, "Since you are now one of the king's chosen, we shall treat each other as sisters." Because milk essence was considered a treasure for refining the eyes, the refinement of the ocular apertures was entrusted to her. Daji then gave a formal bow and withdrew, leaving the chamber. Once the elder sisters had departed, Niu Tiantian gathered her courage and approached Liu Nian. At the moment her garments fell away, a flash of light blazed forth, and 2 radiant lamps shone directly upon his forehead. Thus began the refinement of the ocular apertures. Yet the process caused Niu Tiantian great pain, and she could not hold back her plea. "My king, this strain is too heavy. Please grant me your grace, so that I may endure and complete the task." This episode continues with explosive twists. Viewers underage are advised to step back. Niu Tiantian, overwhelmed with emotion, revealed a peculiar desire and begged Liu Nian for a harsher kind of affection. The request left him momentarily dazed, but soon he gave in and unleashed his strikes without restraint. The sound of energy reverberated through the entire hall. Yet even with such intensity, the little calf was far from satisfied, demanding more. Just as Liu Nian was about to go all out and give her what she wanted, the sudden ringing of a phone interrupted everything. It was Sister Qing Qiuya, the innkeeper, who had found a clue about his missing cousin. With no choice, Liu Nian had to leave the battlefield. But before departing, he reassured Niu Tiantian to wait patiently until he returned to continue the refinement of her vision. To ease her restlessness, he tossed her a large cucumber, hinting she could manage on her own until then. The scene then shifted to the Bibo pool. Through the power of the Imperial Seal, Liu Nian teleported directly to the spot, only to find a group of players surrounding and attacking a young fish demon. But as soon as he saw its face, his heart skipped a beat. The creature bore an uncanny resemblance to his cousin. Cautiously, Liu Nian called out his cousin's name. In the next instant, the cousin broke free from the crowd and rushed forward, hugging Liu Nian tightly, creating an awkward scene that drew laughter from those watching. Liu Nian, however, ignored the mockery. His concern lay in understanding what had happened to his cousin and his father, who had both gone missing inside the game. The cousin explained that after he and Liu Nian's father had reached level 20 and entered the job transfer hall, his father had successfully changed class. But suddenly, without warning, He himself was transported to the Bibo pool, where the system abandoned him. Soon after, he was captured by the local tyrant, the nine-headed serpent, who used him as bait to lure unsuspecting players for easy kills and energy absorption. Even as his cousin finished speaking, the waters of the pool erupted, and the monstrous serpent rose from below. "Mortals, you dare intrude upon my domain. Surrender your essence or perish," it thundered. Most of the players, however, treated it like just another boss encounter, still busy discussing raid strategies, oblivious to the danger. Liu Nian alone realized the true threat. With his understanding of the game, he knew that the nine-headed serpent wasn't supposed to exist in this setting. Its sudden appearance meant only one thing. Someone had tampered with the game's very design. As the players prepared to fight, the serpent released a crushing aura. In the blink of an eye, everyone around was immobilized, frozen in place by its overwhelming power. Nine-headed serpent unleashed nothing more than his aura of dominance. Yet it instantly wiped out the entire crowd, sparing only three, Liu Nian and his two companions. As the monster prepared to absorb their life force, he ordered his minions to capture them and take them back to his lair. Desperate to survive, Liu Nian pulled out a few talismans, striking down the shrimp and crab soldiers. At the same time, he turned to his cousin Benbo, urging him to put on an act, attack him just enough to make his escape believable. Fortunately, the cousin's acting wasn't half bad. While pretending to strike Liu Nian, he shouted to the other soldiers to forget him and capture the remaining two. Meanwhile, Liu Nian's ex-girlfriend Bichi was nearly at her breaking point. That's when Jin Shao came up with a risky idea. He pulled out a long-range cannon he had bought just days earlier, aiming directly at the true body of the nine-headed serpent. One shot blasted a gaping wound in the beast's abdomen. But before Jin Shao could brag about his triumph, Liu Nian realized something was terribly wrong. He grabbed his cousin and bolted. His instincts were right. The power gap was too immense. Not only had Jin Shao failed to kill the creature, he had completely enraged it. With a flick of thought, the serpent cast a spell that turned Jin Shao into a woman. On his command, the shrimp and crab soldiers swarmed, capturing him instantly. Their leader, Shark Brother, took advantage of the situation, striking without hesitation. The disturbing sounds that followed forced Liu Nian and his cousin to cover their eyes, unwilling to witness the horror. The serpent's attention soon shifted back to them. On the ground, Jin Shao and Bichi, terrified, betrayed their companions, revealing that Liu Nian and his cousin were staging a performance to fool him. Realizing Benbo had turned traitor, the nine-headed serpent launched a deadly attack at the two. By sheer luck, Liu Nian survived thanks to the protective power of the nine-dragon robe. Using his healing ability, he managed to recover 3 times in quick succession. With no other choice, he revealed his greatest secret, pulling out the Imperial Seal. His plan was to use it to teleport himself and his cousin to safety. But just as the seal activated, the serpent recognized him as none other than the reincarnation of Emperor Zhou Xin. With a secret sealing spell, he shattered the teleportation array in an instant. This time, it truly seemed like the end. Here it comes. The later part of this episode continues with explosive twists. A kind reminder, not suitable for children. Facing the terrifying power of the nine-headed serpent, Liu Nian was finally recognized as the reincarnation of Emperor Zhou Xin. Determined to fight back, he tried burning his own blood essence in a desperate attempt to resist, but the difference in strength was far too great. His strikes felt like mere scratches, doing nothing but further enraging the monster. The serpent prepared to unleash his ultimate attack to end Liu Nian once and for all. Just then, a brilliant golden light suddenly tore across the sky. With unstoppable force, it struck directly at the beast. 2 golden dragons descended like thunderbolts, ripping apart the serpent's body and severing its limbs, killing him on the spot. At that same moment, Liu Nian, who had assisted in the kill, gained an enormous amount of experience, instantly leveling up 4 times. As the dust settled, a figure riding the legendary beast Chongqi appeared high in the sky. It was none other than Wenzhong, the grand preceptor of the Shang dynasty. Landing before Liu Nian, he immediately fell to his knees. "Your servant Wenzhong is late to your rescue. I beg your forgiveness, my king." He had never imagined he would see his ruler again in this lifetime. Soon after, 2 more beams of divine light fell from the heavens. They revealed themselves as Zhang Guifang, the general of Qinglong Pass, and Zhang Kui, one of the mightiest commanders of the Shang. Though both had once died bravely in battle defending the dynasty, their loyalty and valor earned them a place among the divine. Bound by celestial contracts, their souls had been forced into service in the heavenly realm. Now, their hopes rested on Liu Nian, that he might ascend one day, shatter their chains, and free them. Thus, the bloody battle with the nine-headed serpent came to an end. To ensure no one leaked the secret of his true identity, Liu Nian instructed Wenzhong to open the 3rd heavenly eye. Using celestial magic, he erased the memories of everyone present. Only then did he accept the loyal kneeling of his 3 generals, watching as they returned to the heavens and vanished into the sky. After sending his cousin back to the novice village to continue training, the scene shifted deep beneath the waters of Bibo Lake at Luanstone Mountain. There, the nameplate belonging to the 9-headed serpent suddenly shattered. His wife, Princess Wansheng, rose to her feet in fury. "Who dares kill my husband? Once I uncover the truth, I will tear them into pieces." Back in Bibo Tower, after settling matters, Liu Nian decided to return to the Imperial tombs to complete his refining process. Using the Imperial seal, he teleported back to Xuanyuan tomb. At that instant, his 3 consorts were absent, off preparing rare materials. Only Consort Niu remained. Casting aside her distractions, she joined him, and together they hurried to complete the unfinished dual cultivation ritual. Once it was done, the system announced he had mastered the ability Fiery Eyes. Just then, Daji burst into the room and threw herself into Liu Nian's arms. But before they could enjoy the reunion, a girl named Xuening entered. She was the very key Daji had sought for completing the ear-refining ritual. It was said Xuening's true form was a spirit of the Eastern Sea. Her first drop of blood could grant the power to hear even the faintest sounds in the world. Because of its purity, it could only be collected using a special artifact. Lying down and prepared, she allowed the process to begin. With a piercing cry, the sacred drop was obtained and carefully placed into Liu Nian's ear by Daji herself. Thus, the wind listening ear ability was awakened. Seizing the moment, Consort Niu presented another rare treasure, a lemon fruit. As Liu Nian inhaled its fragrance, his sense refinement was completed, unlocking the human artifact, Yellow Vessel. This triggered a new quest, Glory Continent. A large-scale dungeon was scheduled to open the next morning at Wanming Valley, offering as reward the crucial material needed to reforge the legendary Dragon Phoenix sword. Without hesitation, he accepted the task. What he didn't know was that a conspiracy was already unfolding. Having learned of the serpent's death, Prince Wansheng had arrived at Wanming Valley ahead of time, setting a deadly ambush. Not long ago, Princess Wansheng found Shen Gongbao in the inner palace and learned that her husband, the 9-headed beast, had actually been killed by Yinsheng's Grand Minister Wenzhong after being burned by Emperor Zhou Xin, who released the power of the Huang bloodline. Since the large dungeon in Wanming Valley was about to open, Emperor Zhou Xin would definitely go there, making it the perfect opportunity for revenge. After learning this, an angry Princess Wansheng left, and Shen Gongbao revealed an evil smile. He now clearly understood that before the demon sect leader appeared in reality, his own strength was insufficient to challenge Wenzhong in the Fengshen rankings. Therefore, using someone else to take revenge would be the best strategy at present. A few days later, in Wanming Valley, Princess Wansheng arrived early. To prevent unforeseen dangers, she disguised herself as an ordinary person to scout the situation. Just as she saw Liu Nian entering the valley and was about to approach him, a woman in white suddenly appeared, blocking her path. The newcomer was none other than the young, wealthy lady, Fang Kie. To complete the dungeon run, she had brought 2 friends along. However, upon hearing that the ordinary player in front of them hadn't even changed classes yet and was actually Fang family's son-in-law, the discerning He Shu immediately rejected Liu Nian's request to join the team. Even Shu Meijiao boldly declared that trash is trash, level 24, and still not class changed. Don't let him into the team. At that moment, Princess Wansheng suddenly appeared, offering to join the team herself. She claimed that her level 26 control and trick skills would definitely be useful to them. The group agreed to let her join, but Princess Wansheng immediately went to Liu Nian's side. The princess quietly asked Liu Nian if he had ever been to Bibo Tower. Fang Jie stepped forward, trying to push the princess's hand away in anger. To avoid revealing her identity, Princess Wansheng had no choice but to apologize, though in her heart, she had already resolved that once inside the dungeon, she would annihilate everyone. However, had seen through her act from the very beginning, yet chose to remain silent. He was simply waiting for the princess to reveal her true identity, so he could expose her and bring everything to an end. Before long, the party entered the dungeon known as the Valley of 10,000 Souls. The rules were simple. Only those who reached the innermost layer and defeated the dungeon boss would qualify for the final raid battle. At this point, Liu Nian turned to glance at the princess with a sly, confident smile. He knew very well that because the dungeon was guarded by celestial soldiers, she could not act recklessly until they reached the deepest level. Along the way, the princess maintained her disguise flawlessly. She used her role as a mage to help the team defeat smaller monsters, slowly earning everyone's trust. But as soon as the squad reached the boss chamber, her mask came off. With a sinister laugh, she unleashed the Dark Domain, trapping the group inside her formation. In a single strike, she blasted everyone back, nearly wiping them out instantly. Faced with her overwhelming power, Liu Nian was already prepared. He summoned the 8-fold defense barrier, protecting several girls inside it from her onslaught. When he was about to face her alone, Feng Kie tried to step forward and fight by his side, but Liu Nian stopped her firmly. From her last attack, it's clear, if you go out there, You'll only drag me down. Stay inside the barrier. At the very least, you'll be safe until I return." Hearing this, Feng Qir's eyes filled with tears. In front of everyone, she swore, "If you survive and come back, I will become your true wife." Liu Nian chuckled lightly, then stepped out of the shield to confront the princess head-on. Neither of them realized that high above, hidden in the shadows, the celestial god Nezha, third prince, was watching the entire scene unfold. He saw Liu Nian summon his shadow clones and launch a relentless assault. But everyone knew that, without a proper class advancement, Liu Nian's skills could only reach level 4. Far too weak to harm someone like the princess. Even Nezha smirked. A mere wanderer, daring to challenge a level 20 demon? Laughable. Yet the very next moment, Nezha's smile froze. With a sudden burst, the princess was sent flying by Liu Nian's attack. This shocking scene rattled Feng Qir's heart, and even her two close friends looked at Liu Nian in a new light, openly declaring they wouldn't mind bearing his children. But victory wasn't so simple. After all, the princess was still a level 20 demon. Rising to her feet, she wiped the blood from her lips, her body now radiating an intense purple aura. In the next instant, she unleashed her ultimate technique, Violet Abyss Spirit Beast, and hurled it directly at Liu Nian with devastating speed. Though he attempted to escape using his flying treasure, the Serpent Strike carried a homing curse that locked onto him. With no other choice, he devised a desperate plan. Exposing himself as bait, he clung tightly to the princess, forcing her to share the target of her own attack. In an instant, her devastating strike rebounded, leaving her battered by her own power. With that, the crisis of the Valley of 10,000 Souls finally came to an end. Overcome with relief, Feng Qir rushed forward and kissed Liu Nian in front of everyone, stirring both admiration and jealousy among her friends. But before the group could recover, a sharp clap echoed across the chamber. From above descended the celestial warrior, Nezha, third prince, who had been secretly observing the battle all along. Nezha's purpose was clear. He had recognized Liu Nian's extraordinary potential and wanted to recruit him as a disciple. Yet just as he made his offer, the venom inside Liu Nian surged again, sending him collapsing to the ground. In panic, Feng Qir fell to her knees, begging Nezha to intervene. With a faint smile, Nezha explained, "The deeper poison within his body I can cleanse, but the surface toxin you must handle yourselves, and the method required is unusual. You will need to channel your inner energy together and focus it upon his wound." The three women blushed at his words, for Liu Nian had been bitten in a most awkward place. Still, with his life slipping away, they swallowed their embarrassment and prepared to follow Nezha's instructions. Just as they were about to begin, a golden radiance suddenly flashed across the battlefield. A shining staff appeared, and with it came the revelation. Liu Nian's body was indeed a rare cultivation vessel, a priceless gift for dual cultivation. Following Nezha's guidance, the women's efforts proved effective. Liu Nian slowly regained consciousness, and Nezha himself gave him a celestial pill that purged the last of the serpent's venom. Satisfied, Nezha did not linger. Before departing, he casually tossed Liu Nian a sacred golden brick as a token of their bond. With a wave of his hand, he also placed a lotus-shaped mark upon the very wound where the serpent had struck, saying, "If anyone dares trouble you, show them this seal. They will know whose protection you carry." Liu Nian could only smile awkwardly. After all, what sort of dignity was left when such a mark had been stamped there of all places? The Elder. Meanwhile, at the entrance of the fourth pathway leading to the final boss of One Min Valley, the Nether Guild had just arrived when they were suddenly ambushed by zombies. Thanks to the protection of the two mages known as the Black and White Duo, along with a swift strike from the swordsman Jiang Ziwen, the situation was quickly brought under control. Just then, a slow clap echoed through the battlefield. The newcomer was none other than Hong Chao, the 6th-ranked elite member of the Star Guild. At first glance, he was immediately taken with the twin sisters. Without hesitation, he introduced himself, boasting about the generous benefits of the Star Guild and his influential elder brother, Hong Jin, the guild leader. Clearly, he was trying to lure the Black and White Duo to switch sides. This blatant move enraged little Yama, who ruled the underworld and had never suffered such an insult. But before he could strike, a golden brick came crashing down on Hong Chou's head. The one who threw it was Liu Nian, who had just received the treasured weapon from Nezha. Liu Nian chose to intervene because he recognized the true identity of the Nether Guild. They hailed from Fengdu City, a place where the elites were said to master forbidden techniques. Their rise in guild rankings was inevitable. Forming ties with them meant that once they ascended to divine status in the underworld, they could even extend their parents' lifespans. For Liu Nian, this was a golden opportunity he couldn't afford to miss. Realizing that Liu Nian's golden brick attacks required enormous financial backing, Hong Chou ordered his men to bombard him with spell attacks, hoping to exhaust his resources. But what he didn't expect was that Liu Nian wasn't fighting alone. He had the backing of the Fang Corporation, the Tang Dining Group, and the He Family Martial Arts Hall, all united under the support of his wealthy girlfriend's consortium. To them, the money Liu Nian was spending was nothing more than pocket change. This made his golden brick assault practically limitless. With gold flying like dust, Liu Nian launched indiscriminate attacks against the Star Guild members. When the enemies finally fell, piles of equipment dropped to the ground. Seeing this, Liu Nian rushed to grab everything, hoping to recover some of the money he had just spent. But his girlfriend's consortium quickly scolded him. "It's just a few million, darling. Don't bother with that junk. Even if it were much more, we'd happily spend it for you." Though their words were filled with affection, being pampered like this still left Liu Nian a little embarrassed. Sensing the awkwardness, members of the Nether Guild lightened the atmosphere. After a brief exchange of introductions, Little Yama and Liu Nian decided to officially join forces and venture together into Lanluo Temple for their next adventure. Here we go again. This episode is packed with non-stop action, so keep your tissues and glasses ready. According to their research, the boss inside, Black Mountain Demon, unleashed a devastating ultimate attack every 30 seconds. Little Yama couldn't quite understand why Liu Nian, who wasn't even sure if he was a professional or just a freelancer, seemed so confident. He not only volunteered to tank all the damage, but also assured the team that he would heal them while they focused on offense. Together, he promised, they could break the dungeon's record. Since they had chosen to trust him, no one argued further. As the hellish imps were summoned and the battlefield grew tense, all eyes turned to Liu Nian, waiting for his command. Without hesitation, he charged ahead, locking down the Black Mountain Demon with a binding talisman. Once he had the monster's attention, he ordered the black and white duo to begin their long-range attacks, while the rest of the team struck from behind. But as Liu Nian took the brunt of the damage up front, his health bar began to drop rapidly. To everyone's surprise, he activated Rejuvenation, healing himself even as he continued losing blood. Normally, this level of recovery was possible only for a fully advanced healer, and the surprises didn't stop there. While healing himself, Liu Nian also cast a powerful group recovery spell, instantly restoring 20% of his teammates' health. Morale soared, and the team suddenly felt their chances of breaking the record had doubled. Just then, Liu Nian shouted, "Melee, fall back!" The Black Mountain Demon was preparing his ultimate, a crushing strike called Titan Slam. Liu Nian initially tried to counter with a warrior skill, Desperate Strike, but the boss's overwhelming power forced him to use the mage skill Blink, dodging backward in the nick of time. Thanks to his group healing, the team managed to survive the first wave. As time dragged on and the battle wore down, the demon unleashed a massive area of effect attack. Liu Nian reacted instantly, shielding the group with the healer skill Soul Tree Barrier, reducing part of the damage. Even so, most of the party's health plummeted, and Liu Nian himself was visibly struggling after sustaining continuous hits. Just when things looked bleak, Little Yama stepped forward. "Leave the rest to me," he declared. Raising a single finger, he chanted, "In the name of Yama, Spirit Mirror's power, heed my call." At his words, the Spirit Beast Earth Listener materialized. The sight of this stunned everyone. The black and white duo rushed to stop him in alarm, while Liu Nian stood there completely baffled. The Divine Beast, Diding, suddenly appeared, stunning everyone present. The sheer pressure of its roar was enough to make the onlookers cough up blood and tremble in fear. Yet, at this moment, Diding's attention was fixed solely on Little Yama. Even it couldn't understand how someone as young and inexperienced as him had managed to summon it. But summoning such a powerful force came at a cost. Little Yama suffered severe backlash from using his ultimate technique. Seeing this, the black and white duo immediately fell to their knees, begging Diding for help. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battlefield, the fight raged on. The Black Mountain Demon had entered his second form, unleashing another devastating ultimate. To withstand the blow, Liu Nian even resorted to the Shaolin Art Golden Bell Shield, all while shouting at his team to keep up continuous damage. It was the only way they could hope to break the dungeon record. But Little Yama had clearly prepared in advance. Out of nowhere, a roasted chicken drumstick appeared in his hand. The moment he offered it, Diding's eyes lit up, drool spilling as it devoured the meat. Only then did it reluctantly agree to lend its aid. Just as Liu Nian was recovering health and preparing to deliver the finishing strike, Diding unleashed a Kasitigarba Sacred Seal. With a single move, it crushed the Black Mountain Demon down to a sliver of health. By the rules, Diding could not fully slay an elite monster within the game. Otherwise, it would risk punishment from the celestial gods. That's why it left the demon barely alive, giving Liu Nian and his team the chance to finish it off. The squad wasted no time. One after another, they unleashed their strongest techniques in a merciless barrage, until the Black Mountain Demon finally collapsed. Moments later, news of Liu Nian's squad clearing the Nether Valley spread across the world chat. At the valley's exit, the deputy leader of the Starfire Guild also saw the announcement. Furious, he cursed aloud. "Black and white duo, it must be you. You dare provoke the Starfire Guild? Just wait. Once you come out, I'll show you the true meaning of cruelty." Bidding farewell to the divine beast they had summoned, Liu Nian and little Yama began dividing the rewards among their group. Just as they stepped out of the dungeon, they were ambushed by the deputy leader of the Star Guild, who had been lying in wait. He had assumed the battle would leave Liu Nian and his ally completely drained, and demanded they hand over their equipment if they wanted to walk free. But the tables turned. Little Yama had already cast a death curse on him. In an instant, the deputy leader's body withered into a dried husk. No one expected that this forbidden spell, not registered in the game's system, would cause the man's actual death. He never respawned. The Star Guild members, terrified, threatened to report the incident to the game administrators. At that tense moment, little Yama stepped forward, declaring he would take full responsibility. Liu Nian didn't hold back either, claiming he had connections with the celestial warrior Nezha, who might intervene on their behalf. His words sparked ridicule. "Stop bluffing. If you know Nezha, then I must know the Jade Emperor himself," sneered the duo known as Black and White Twins. But Liu Nian's companions wouldn't let it slide. Each one came forward to vouch for him, insisting his claim was true. What followed, however, was not the defense he had imagined. The women, divided in opinion, quickly turned their argument into an all-out clash, a battle of pride that spiraled into an absurd contest. With both sides evenly matched, the conflict escalated until only one ridiculous method remained to decide the winner. Just when chaos reached its peak, little Yama stepped in to put an end to the madness. Only then did everyone realize that the newcomer was no ordinary player, but the celestial administrator, Giant Spirit God, who had arrived to punish little Yama. The divine aura he released instantly crushed any thought of resistance. Confronted by the deity's wrath, Liu Nian quickly stepped forward. "There are too many people here," he said carefully. "Please, allow me to speak with you in private. I'll show you something. If that doesn't calm your anger, you may punish me as you see fit." Giant Spirit God agreed, and the two slipped into a quiet corner. Secretly, little Yama ordered the Black and White Twins to follow and protect him, but what they witnessed left them stunned. Liu Nian lowered his trousers, revealing the unmistakable lotus mark of Nezha himself. The god recognized it immediately. From the twins' perspective, however, the scene looked far more scandalous than it truly was. The shocking sight left them blushing uncontrollably before they hurried away, determined to report everything to little Yama. Not long after, when Liu Nian and his companion returned, the Giant Spirit God's demeanor had clearly changed. He offered a few parting words before hurrying off to patrol other regions. At that moment, the Black and White Twins looked at Liu Nian with disdain, as if mocking him like a duck being ridiculed. Thankfully, little Yama didn't believe their words. After a brief farewell, both sides went their separate ways. Meanwhile, Shen Gongbao was indulging himself in the service of his attendants. Just as he was about to taste what they had prepared, a furious shout rang out. "Bad news! Taoist Shen! Princess Wansheng is dead!" But Shen Gongbao showed no surprise. For him, the princess had always been nothing more than a pawn. Since the pawn had failed to serve its purpose, he now had no choice but to act personally in order to obtain the bloodline of the human emperor. Still, before setting out, he felt it best to release some of his pent-up pressure. His gaze immediately turned to the servant before him, who looked up with worship in her eyes. The scene then shifted back to Wanmin Valley, where Liu Nian's team was embroiled in internal conflict. The constant bickering of three women over Liu Nian's exclusive rights finally erupted into open fighting. In the end, however, it was the original wife who came out on top. "Come home with me, husband. Tonight, I'll serve you well," she declared. Liu Nian understood the saying, "One gun can't fight three attacks." So he made an excuse about stepping out for a smoke and dashed away, leaving the three women frustrated and in tears. After running some distance and realizing no one was chasing him, he pulled out the Imperial Seal, using it along with certain materials to teleport back to the tomb of the Cursing King. There, his companions were surrounded by swirling smoke, working diligently. Upon asking, he learned they were preparing to forge the Dragon Phoenix sword. Once everything was ready, the forging could finally be completed. Taking advantage of the free moment, Liu Nian opened the level 20 Imperial Seal gift pack he had received as a system reward. To his surprise, the gift contained the powerful artifact Star Plucking Tower of 10,000 Demons. This treasure could absorb demon cores into its inner space, imprison them, and even tame them. Once their loyalty reached 50%, he could wield one of their divine abilities. At 100%, he could summon them to fight at his side. Inside the tower, Liu Nian himself was invincible. No matter how powerful, none of the imprisoned demons could harm him. Driven by curiosity, Liu Nian immediately chose to enter the tower. 2 imprisoned demons appeared before his eyes. Among them was none other than the slain Princess Wansheng and the chained 9-headed beast. When Liu Nian revealed the soul whip, both of them dismissed the danger and mocked him, claiming he was unworthy of being the reincarnation of the Curse King. But the moment the whip lashed across their bodies, they finally realized the torment of a strike that cuts through the soul itself. This was Liu Nian's way of breaking their arrogance completely. As he looked at the princess, his gaze turned darker. With a sudden surge of power, he pulled her toward him without even touching her. A sinister smile crossed his face as spiritual energy flared, his fingers weaving together to unleash a deadly strike aimed deep within her core. Even then, the 9-headed beast stubbornly refused to surrender, watching his companion suffer in silence. Left with no choice, Liu Nian decided to escalate further. He pinned Princess Wansheng down and, in a shocking display meant to humiliate, began overpowering her while the beast was forced to watch. Seeing this, the proud creature's heart finally shattered. With a broken spirit, he communicated secretly with the princess, acknowledging that in this space, they had no chance of defeating Liu Nian. Their only option was to feign submission, bide their time, and wait for a chance to escape. Once their chains were undone, both pretended loyalty, hoping Liu Nian would leave them alone. But just then, the system unexpectedly intervened. It declared that the 9-headed beast was more suitable to follow Liu Nian, and, in an instant, transformed him into a woman. This sudden change left Liu Nian shocked. Before him now was the beast, no longer monstrous, but behaving coy and submissive. Just as the system prepared to assess their obedience and close the chapter in the tower, the results stunned him. It revealed that neither of them had truly submitted. By listening to their inner thoughts, Liu Nian finally understood the truth. The two had recognized his rare cultivation body, one that was perfect for dual practice. Instead of surrendering, they were secretly plotting to capture him together. If they succeeded, they could use this chance to break through to the rank of Demon King, or even Demon Emperor, and finally escaped the star-seizing tower. When Liu Nian realized the truth, his fury exploded. He raised the soul whip once again and lashed them both mercilessly. Initially, his only goal had been to gain their submission and obtain their core abilities, but now his intentions shifted. From the corner, the eerie sight of a spinning carousel caught his attention, stirring suspicion. He picked up the uniforms lying on the ground and ordered them to wear them immediately. Princess Wansheng hesitated. These clothes were several sizes too large for her, but under Liu Nian's overwhelming pressure, she had no choice but to comply. As soon as they finished changing in front of him, their bodies were suddenly pulled into the air, dragged straight towards the 2 wooden carousels below. The moment they were locked in place, 2 agonized screams shook the entire tower. The carousel spun violently, rocking back and forth. Even the cunning, scheming 9-headed beast couldn't endure it. At last, he broke down and surrendered. Once his submission level reached 50%, Liu Nian was rewarded. He gained the beast's survival technique, the demon art, Chain of 9 Dragons. Yet, when he cast it, the manifestation was completely different from how the beast had once used it. Instead of 9 heads, the 9 lives took form beneath Liu Nian himself. After confirming there was no side effect, Liu Nian then turned his gaze back to Princess Wansheng. Following her ordeal, her submission also crossed 50%, granting Liu Nian an exclusive high-grade ability, the Purple Reef Spirit. Satisfied, and after taking a moment to regain strength, Liu Nian finally left the star-seizing tower, with both kneeling at his feet. The scene then shifted to the Imperial Mausoleum Palace. There, Consort Nu awaited at the gates, explaining that she must help the king remove every piece of clothing before he could enter. Inside, several other consorts were already prepared, waiting for his return to begin the forging of the Dragon Phoenix sword. The ritual required Liu Nian to be free of all garments, his body and spirit pure and untainted. With the materials placed into the furnace and the combined effort of the consorts, spiritual energy surged through patience, determination, and their collective strength. The legendary Dragon Phoenix sword was finally forged. The consorts bowed deeply. "Congratulations, my king, on your success. May you triumph in every battle ahead, slaying demons and striking down gods alike." Dragon Phoenix sword, Liu Nian deliberately disguised it as a cheap knockoff called the Dry Ginger Wild Blade. With it, he stormed through beasts and monsters, leveling up with ease as if slicing vegetables. Just then, the 25th ranked Mianxi Blaze Guild's flying cruiser soared overhead. Inside, the induction ceremony for new members was in full swing. The one giving the motivational speech was the guild leader, Lu. His relentless brainwashing worked like magic. The rookies were fired up, shouting in unison, ready to take the Blaze Guild to new heights. Stepping down from the stage, Liu paused beside a young nurse and quietly asked if she still wished to return and serve the powerful elites like a mere servant. Hearing her firm refusal, he let out a sinister grin and nodded in satisfaction. With that, the internal spiritual awakening session came to an end. Soon after, Liu raised his hand, signaling everyone to stay quiet. He pointed out of the window toward a distant mountain, announcing it as their official base. He promised that once they entered, every new recruit would receive 8 hours of free soaking in premium spirit springs, an exclusive benefit. The entire cruiser erupted. After all, soaking in spirit springs grants double experience points. However, before entering, everyone was asked to surrender their phones. According to Liu, only by cutting off distractions could they fully commit to power leveling. But what they didn't notice was that the moment he collected all the phones, Liu couldn't help but burst into laughter. Cut to the mountain base. Some bold recruits led the way enthusiastically. The timid ones hesitated, but after being reassured by senior members, followed inside. The moment they reached the central hall, Liu finally dropped the act, wearing a wicked smile. "Welcome," he announced, "to the interest-free human breeding farm." Instantly, a few sharp recruits sensed something was off, but by then, it was too late. Spatial vortices appeared behind Liu, revealing their true captor, Bone Overload, one of the elite subordinates of the infamous demoness Lady Whitebone. These captives were gifts for her. Liu had just one request. Before they were taken away, he and his brothers wanted to enjoy the female recruits. With Bone Overload's approval, a massive water current surged forth, sweeping up the nurse first. Even Hongyan, the undercover agent from the Great Merchant Guild, couldn't escape. Meanwhile, high above the skies of Shenzhen, Jiang Xue, the president of the Great Merchant Guild, was in hot pursuit, following Hongyan's tracking signal. She had deliberately planted undercover agents within the Blaze Guild to uncover the forces backing them. Coincidentally, Liu Nian, having just finished grinding monsters, was lounging on a tree branch. A beautiful silhouette streaked across the sky above him, instantly snapping him to attention. Is this some kind of quest trigger? Forget low-level monsters. Time to chase that. The gang leader stood on the sidelines, ordering his men to attack freely. But before they could land a strike, the young girl launched a devastating kick, sending them reeling. The leader of the Mianxi Guild watched helplessly as his men were beaten down. He had no choice but to push the injured nurse aside and step forward himself. With a single move, he unleashed a water tornado. The girl was instantly overwhelmed, her body gravely injured and left without the strength to fight back. Just as defeat seemed certain, a flurry of icy arrows shot through the air, sparking a glimmer of hope. The one who had arrived was none other than her guild leader, Jiang Xue. Seeing her appear, the Mianxi Guild leader showed no intention of facing her head-on. Instead, his gaze turned toward the Bone Overlord. With the slightest flick of his hand, the Bone Overlord sent shockwaves that blasted the wounded guild members aside in a single strike. Yet his attack was still not strong enough to harm Jiang Xue. Taking advantage of the moment, the Mianxi Guild leader charged straight at her. "You dare conspire with demons to harm your own people for the right price! I'd even sell my own mother!" he shouted, hurling a water slash forward. But Jiang Xue calmly raised her sword to her chest. "Frozen prison!" she declared. A burst of chilling frost erupted, instantly freezing his arm solid. With one swift strike, she shattered the ice, leaving him defeated in a single blow. The Mianxi Guild leader collapsed, stripped of all fighting power. "The matter of the Mianxi Guild has already been reported to the authorities," Jiang Xue declared firmly. "I order you to release all players immediately. Do you understand?" But before she could continue, the aura around the Bone Overlord surged. A spectral sword emerged from his body, humming with deadly power. The Mianxi Guild leader, desperate, tried to plead with him, only to become the first victim impaled by the summoned blade. As their leader fell, the remaining members of the Mianxi Guild scattered in terror, but their lives lasted only seconds longer before the Bone Overlord cut them all down without mercy. Jiang Xue realized his strength was far beyond ordinary. She knew she had to strike with her ultimate technique, yet even when she split the Bone Overlord's head in two, his body regenerated, restoring itself completely. Moments later, his aura erupted again, trapping her within a cyclone of air. Relentless attacks rained down, and her stamina began to falter. At that critical moment, a sudden crimson light tore through the battlefield, severing the Bone Overlord's limbs in an instant. As his body began to regenerate once more, Jiang Xue's eyes widened, finally seeing who had arrived. The protagonist had entered at last. "Sorry to keep you waiting, beautiful. I'm late," he said with a confident smile. The newcomer was said to be the strongest solo player in the entire game. He had come alone to play the hero and save the damsel, only to be mocked by the very women he tried to help. The reason was simple. The monster before him wasn't an NPC. It was a real demon, one that had crossed over into reality. But Liu Nian, blessed with 12 lives, showed no fear. What unsettled him instead was the demonic aura radiating from one of the female teammates, leaving him momentarily distracted. At that moment, the Bone Overlord launched a sudden sneak attack. Snapping back to his senses, Liu Nian ordered Jiang Shui and the others to retreat while he drew his blade in a swift strike. Even when his skills connected, the Bone Overlord refused to stay down. As long as he retained even a shred of mana, he could endlessly resurrect and rebuild his body. Hearing Jiang Shui's hurried explanation by his side, Liu Nian quickly formed a plan. He would counter each move with a technique of his own, relying on his unique talent to unleash unlimited, cost-free attacks. What followed was a relentless, unbroken assault. To everyone's surprise, the results were immediate. The Bone Overlord's ability to regenerate faltered under the ceaseless blows. At one point, in the chaos of reforming, he mistakenly reattached his head to his waist. The ridiculous sight made even the onlookers burst into laughter. Seeing the strategy working, Liu Nian pressed harder, chaining infinite strikes one after another. At last, the Bone Overlord's mana ran dry, and he collapsed, slain on the battlefield. Jiang Shui finally recognized him. This was the very same lone player who had cleared the Valley of 10,000 Souls dungeon on his own. The thought of recruiting him to her guild instantly crossed her mind. His strength could raise them to a new level. Even the rescued nurse at her side couldn't hide the admiration in her eyes, stealing shy glances at Liu Nian. Yet Liu Nian didn't allow himself even a moment's relief. His sharpened senses, honed through countless trials, had picked up something unmistakable. The scent of demonic energy coming from one of the female guild members. Without hesitation, he struck at her to test the truth, but the move was blocked by the leader of the Great Merchant Guild. "Have you lost your mind? Why are you attacking one of our own?" he shouted. Vice Leader Hong Yan, Jiang Shui's trusted companion, immediately stepped forward in false weakness, twisting the story. She accused Liu Nian of attempting to assault her, claiming he had lashed out only after failing to succeed. Her words sparked an uproar, drawing sneers and scorn from the other female teammates. Jiang Shui, though uneasy, still chose to side with Hong Yan. Their sisterly bond left her unwilling to doubt her. Liu Nian, however, offered no defense. His eyes locked on Hong Yan with cold certainty. "A demon is a demon," he declared. "Since you insist on framing me, then I'll show you soon enough what a real monster looks like." His words sent the Great Merchant Guild into a fury. They charged at him together, while in the shadows, Hong Yan lowered her hands, a twisted, demonic face emerging at last. Bullied, wronged, and in pain, some male companions were ready to take up their blades and mount their horses to save her heroically. For them, this was the moment they had waited for years. Like a girl finally agreeing to devote herself in return, allowing the hero to win her heart. Just imagining it made them drool with anticipation. But reality was different. Elder sister spoke only one sentence: "Let Liu Nian go. No one is allowed to interfere." As Liu Nian drifted farther away and vanished from sight, President Jiang Shui gently helped up the Vice President, Hong Yan. To her surprise, what she received in return was mocking laughter. Suddenly, a red aura spread from Hong Yan's body. Her human skin mask melted away, revealing the terrifying figure of Madame White Bones. Before Jiang Shui could even react, White Bones struck. Her domain of bone instantly enveloped everyone from the Great Commerce Guild. Because of the domain's unique power, even if Jiang Gui wanted to send a signal for help, it was impossible. As the bone domain slowly expanded, many weaker members were already trapped like fish in a barrel. Even Jiang Gui, facing the relentless attacks, could barely defend herself, her strength slipping away. Time passed, and eventually, she could no longer withstand it. She was firmly bound in place by White Bones' powers. Listening to White Bones' taunts, she realized that the impersonation of Hong Yan, luring her here, and even the trap involving the Free Interest Guild had all been part of White Bones' plan. But regret came too late. Thinking of the dreamlike figure she had yet to meet, Jiang Shui closed her eyes with sorrow, ready to accept death as White Bones prepared the fatal blow. At that instant, an arrow severed the bones restraining her. The one who came to her aid was none other than the real Liu Nian, the very person she had driven away. Snatched from the jaws of death, Jiang Gui's eyes could not help but lock onto him. With his fiery golden eyes, Liu Nian had already seen through White Bones' trick. Pretending to leave was merely to teach the guild a hard lesson. Even as White Bones' attacks still bound her, the love-struck nurse crawled toward Liu Nian, swearing that if she survived, she would serve him for life. Yet other voices rose. Some doubted Liu Nian's strength, claiming he could not defeat White Bones. Others even accused him of colluding with her. With a single swing, Liu Nian struck a foolish man down with a brick. But a great demon remains a great demon. White Bones, facing Liu Nian, showed no fear. Instead, she arrogantly declared that if he could defeat her, She would willingly become his servant for all eternity. Smiling, Liu Nian demanded she hand over her belt. In response, White Bones unleashed her bone wraiths, certain that not even an immortal could change the outcome. What no one expected was that Liu Nian, instead of retreating, charged straight at her under the guise of a rooster. His choice was deliberate. He had just gained the 12 lives of the 9-headed worm. Even though White Bones' attacks killed him twice in the process, it mattered little. He revived each time, unyielding. As Liu Nian closed in, a single strike, heart-piercing sword, made White Bones' eyes widen in shock. Then came the Dragon Phoenix sword technique, Dragon Phoenix Slash. In front of everyone, the love-struck nurse openly declared she wanted to serve as a man's bed maid. Soon, even other women around began volunteering themselves, determined to seize the chance to cling to a powerful protector. Just moments ago, Liu Nian, with only the most basic skills, had slain the infamous demon from Journey to the West, Madame White Bones. Compared to the other female players, Jiang Xue remained relatively calm. She simply couldn't understand how an unregistered wanderer, not even yet classed in the game, could possess such overwhelming power. Suddenly, sharp screams rang out. Everyone's eyes turned toward Liu Nian's body. When he realized what they were staring at, he discovered the truth. In the recent battle, 2 of the 9 lives of the 9-headed worm had been lost. The remaining heads couldn't help but emerge, warning him he needed dual cultivation to restore their energy and revive fully. As Liu Nian's body released demonic energy, the blonde-haired man jumped out, accusing him loudly. Even Jiang Xue began to doubt, asking whether he was truly human or demon. Seizing the chance while they spoke, the blonde-haired man secretly contacted a game administrator. Moments later, golden light flashed, and the divine body of the mighty spirit god descended before the players. The instant he landed, every player except Liu Nian collapsed under his crushing aura. The happiest of all was, of course, the blonde-haired man himself. He longed to see Liu Nian executed on the spot, imagining how every female player would rush to embrace him, elevating him to the peak of glory. But what stunned him was when Jiang Xue suddenly knelt, begging the deity to spare Liu Nian's life. Even the nurse stepped forward, offering to take punishment in his place. The mighty spirit god ignored them and bent down in front of Liu Nian. Seeing this, the blonde-haired man nearly burst with joy, convinced his moment had come. But when the oppressive force lifted, the deity shocked everyone by pulling Liu Nian into a close embrace, like greeting an old friend. The blonde-haired man rushed forward to accuse him, claiming Liu Nian was tainted with demonic aura and allied with monsters, demanding execution for justice. But the next moment left the crowd even more speechless. After hearing what had happened, the mighty spirit god himself insisted on examining Liu Nian's body to see if he truly possessed 9 miraculous treasures. By then, it was obvious to all, Liu Nian clearly shared a close relationship with the deity. Otherwise, such intimacy would never have happened. The blonde-haired man saw this as well. Furious, he threatened to report the mighty spirit god for shielding Liu Nian to the game authorities. His answer came as nothing more than a glance, yet that alone blasted him away, leaving him barely alive with only a sliver of health. Just as the deity prepared to deliver the finishing blow, the sky above suddenly tore open. From the rift, Erlang Shenyangjian slowly emerged. Slowly, Erlang Shenyangjian, accompanied by his celestial hound, Xiaotian, arrived after receiving a report to capture demons. Under the crushing pressure of a high god, every game player present collapsed to the ground, silent in fear. Only one man stood tall, refusing to kneel. His reason made everyone break into a cold sweat. One day, my brilliance will surpass yours. From anyone else, such words would sound like a joke. But coming from Liu Nian, who had already created countless miracles, no one dared laugh. The blonde-haired man, who had filed the report, sneered when he saw Liu Nian dare to defy a god. Sure enough, Xiaotian lunged forward at full speed, ignoring all cries to stop, charging straight at Liu Nian. Everyone thought his fate was sealed. The blonde-haired man was so delighted, he leapt to his feet, dancing with joy. But what happened next shocked them all. Instead of attacking, Xiaotian acted like a loyal pet reunited with family, rubbing affectionately against Liu Nian. Later, they learned the truth. The previous Xiaotian had been punished and sent to the mortal realm because his mate was a common dog. The one before them now was his gentler successor, the second-generation pair. Hearing Xiaotian's report that Liu Nian carried no demonic aura, the mighty spirit god quickly revived his form and explained Neja, the third prince, had once said that Liu Nian possessed extraordinary dual cultivation talent. The demonic aura he emitted was merely the manifestation of his 9 spiritual brothers. Understanding the truth, Yang Jian saw through the blonde-haired man's lies. Without hesitation, he cast a spell that reduced the man's level back to the very beginning, forcing him to start his cultivation anew. Calling Xiaotian back, Yang Jian prepared to leave, but turned once more toward Liu Nian. "I'll be waiting for you above," he said, before tearing open the void and vanishing. Yet because the mighty spirit god had accidentally revealed his secret, Liu Nian was swarmed by eager female players, each volunteering to serve his 9 spiritual brothers just to secure a place at his side. The scene shifted to another corner of the game's world. With Black Myth, Wukong already cleared. A new aura chased after the man. Tossing aside his console, he declared with pride, "I just want to play my game in peace. But since you, Erlang Shen, insist on pursuing me even here, don't blame this Monkey King for sending you to the Western Heaven."